Hi everyone, I'm back with another podcast recording here. Today we're doing it with Ivan, who is the founder of TAILORS and also 7am, which is a coffee roasting and brewing company. And we're going to dive into a little bit of the background of Ivan and founding the business, as well as some difficult and hard times through business, what you can do to enhance your place in the CGI industry, making yourself more commercially and creatively valuable, visuals and behavior, working with global brands, founder resilience, and AI and the future. So yeah, Ivan, introduce yourself a little bit to everyone.
Hello, I'm Ivan, founder of TAILORS. Up recently, we used to be digital as a TAILORS, so this is kind of a rebrand, a post-rebrand stuff to TAILORS. I'm running my business for 13 years, so more of a decade of experience and things, and very happy to reveal some of those today with you on a podcast, Harrison.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people who are going to be watching this are 100% in the CG space. So I think a lot of the focus of this conversation will be kind of orientated around CG and building up a CG business and growing from just being a freelancer to anyone that actually wants to create a foundation. But what first pulled you into 3D and CGI? Take me all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, for me, it all started at university when I first had my class where our professor showed us this is how you can make creative stuff. And the university wasn't particularly about the CGI animation. It was just one class and subject, and I was totally blown away. And I remember my feeling like, wait, you can just play around and make money as a profession? Like, no way this is true. And then this is true. And from that moment I was like, I am doing nothing else because this is available. So I'm all in on this. So I remember I was hooked. And then instead of playing games at night, I was in, I don't know, Maya, ZBrush, also playing. So that was like big revelation for me and big driving factor to get into it. And we have a good professor. He really motivated us, which is super important. And today I also teach at the university, so I try to be at least halfway there as my professor was, to motivate young
Yeah.
people.
I mean, I went to college for 2 years to study visual effects, animation, and games, but that was kind of midway through me actually being a 3D artist. So I was a 3D artist and then ended up going to education for it. But honestly, I had a little bit of a different experience to you where I found that the actual people teaching it didn't have a passion behind it. And that's something which I think if you don't have a passion behind what you're teaching in, especially in the creative area, the students are instantly going to feel that.
Yeah.
And also I feel like your work and your clients feel that as well, that you can instantly tell when someone has a passion to what they're talking about, or them actually wanting to create something rather than just going with whatever. So I think younger people who are in college at the moment, I think having that, I guess, mentor or teacher, having that passion makes you even more passionate. And if you don't have that, which is what was the case for me, it makes it even harder. So yeah, no, I'm glad that you had a passionate process in kind of getting into
Yeah, that's
3D.
very important.
Yeah. Did your interest in kind of advertising and products, I guess, what you kind of mainly veer into now, was that always a passion for you? I know for me, like I have a big obsession with, when I go into a new shop or things like that, I'm obsessed by new packaging or new labels, or, when I'm walking out and about and I'm seeing ads and creative things like that. Has that always been a passion for you, or did you want to go into something else originally when you were young?
So uh, basically, my first job in the CGI industry was in the advertising studio, and I didn't like it that much. I always wanted to work on the film. So
Yeah.
back in the day, film for me was like, come on, you have to work on a film. Film is like the top thing to work on as a VFX artist, as 3D artist. So finally I managed to get my job in the VFX company. And once I got there, then I figured something I couldn't figure without being there. Is like you spend so much time on one thing. So, for example, we did a movie with the CGI sharks. So I was like every day on my job looking at the jaws of a shark for 2 months.
Yeah.
Like that becomes boring, you know. And all the feedback is about shark teeth for 2 months, and I'm like, man, bring you back to commercial world. So I kind of missed that. And then later in career, I figured out that I just wanted to work on like more premium commercial stuff, and and cycles of commercials, like you do cycles of 4, 6, 10, 12 weeks, and then there's a new one, and that gets excited. Like the movie, you do it for a year,
Yeah.
something like that. So that was my path, you know, like advertising, film, and then back to the advertising, and finally being happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the kind of rapid change in kind of themes that you work on, especially in the product industry. You know, one day you're doing a luxury perfume ad, and the next day you're doing some kind of food thing. And
Exactly.
if you're in a position where your studio is doing multiple projects at once, even if you're not a freelancer, it's like you're jumping between things, and that's what keeps you refreshed, inspired, and passionate. And I feel
Yeah.
like I've definitely found, and I guess everyone has, you know, when you're on that 6 weeks of a project, you're like, oh, just get me on to the next one. So I feel like having that variety in your work and what you work on is not only really good for getting new clients and things like that, but also for your own kind of sanity as well. Just that kind of quick refresh. Because I also wanted to kind of go into the film industry. I think having my name on the credits at the end of a film was always like the absolute biggest dream for me.
Yeah.
But then I slowly found and I guess I would kind of as a kid, you know, watching a bunch of movies, I'd love to be part of it, but not be an actor or that kind of thing. But then my passion kind of came into, I guess, products and kind of the really quick landscape of that. But yeah, I guess looking back now, what did you just completely underestimate about running a creative business, and
Oh,
what things do you wish you, I guess, knew from the get go, and what do you tell people now?
oh, so it wouldn't be same answer for like the two questions. Like what I underestimated is basically the business side of the business.
Yeah,
Like we all get into this to create stuff, and we totally underestimate what the business side of the thing is. But I wouldn't wish I knew about it, because I don't know if I would dive into this if I knew everything. Like there's a business principle of or entrepreneur people, right?
that's so
Like just
true.
go into it, because like there's one obstacle, and
Yeah,
then you cross it, and there's the other one, because like if there's 10 obstacles, then it's scary, and then you
yeah,
don't dive into it. So definitely all sides business is what I wasn't that aware of. We all think like we just do great work, and great work recommends and works by itself, and then more work comes in. And that kind of used to work like, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years ago. But now it's so saturated that it just doesn't work that way. You just have to invest in all the other aspects of running the business.
yeah. It's so interesting you say that, actually, that, you know, if you knew about all of those business side of things and the hardships of running a creative business, that you might not have actually gone down that route. But then when you reflect on it later on, you're like, I wish I did know about it. But, you know,
Yeah,
without that, I guess, creative stride, you wouldn't have started this kind of business. You know, I feel like you don't go into 3D and CGI or VFX to make a lot of money. You know, that's just not, it's not, it's not one of those ones where you
yeah,
go into. But I feel
yeah,
like, you know, that will come if you're passionate about what you do. Whereas,
exactly.
you know, there's so many other professions where you do go into it for that kind of financial aspect. But I think to be so good in 3D and CGI and to build that foundational business, or even just you as an individual, you're not, I don't think you can be in it for the money. And
Exactly.
that's definitely a long-term thing.
Yeah, you just want to craft amazing art,
Yeah.
get paid for it, and that's it. At the
Yeah.
beginning, you just passionate about it. But that's where you figure out, like, especially for us in the start, we just go for making great whatever, like renders, commercials, campaigns, and then we do it for us. But basically, with time, you learn that there is a client, and he's not always a douchebag with the feedback. He has its own agenda, and then with time, you learn to basically you're doing it for him, and then you learn to be more to have more compassion and understanding for why certain things don't work just being amazing creative, because this is this brand and it talks to this audience, and at the end of the day that person within the brand has its own life at the work, outside of the work, and you should also work along all these things that basically help that person
Yeah.
deliver something good. And once you make that switch in your brain, that then turns into relationship with the actual person, which has its name and life. And I think that's the turning point for every business in general.
Yeah, I think the people that are most connected to the work that they're actually doing, and the ones where it's not just, oh, let's get it signed off, let's get it done to this. It's the ones that get their hands on it and become passionate about whatever project they're doing. It just makes the world of a difference. And you touching on relationships and kind of building those connections in this industry, I think is so important, because of you wanting to work with different brands and different companies and things like that. Having those connections within there is so vital. You can't always rely on the next cold outreach bit that you do, or the emails that come through the inbox. It's you have to be proactive in the connections that you build. Because I think once you plant those seeds in different parts of the industry, whether that's food or tech or, consumables or whatever, then they do come to you a little bit more once you've planted those seeds. And I think relationships is the core backbone for each of those. So, yeah, I mean, at TAILORS, what was the first project where you realized, or what was the project that made you realize this is big for us? We need to expand a little bit more. It can't just be me. I have to hire new people. Where was it that you realized this is actually becoming quite a good business? What project was that?
So we always grew very slowly and cautious. So I never ran into things. So it was never overnight thing. But we always had like I founded a studio, and like a couple of years later, I also partnered with my partner,
Yeah.
and we always felt that we can do more, that we can bring more, that we are meant for more, that our craft is way above some other studios. Like you always have to have that competitive edge.
Yeah.
But several times just doing, we were always invited to in the pitch phases, because we used to work as outsourced with different studios, and it was really flattering, because being invited at the pitch to help the treatment means you have that little bit of something. We build style frames that will like beat the competition, so it's really important. So that was our thing. And we had situations where we partnered with our partner studios, where we beat like the studios like The Mill back in the days on the creative treatment pitch.
Yeah.
Which is basically, okay, like no big deal. We beat The Mill. Like we can do that, so we can build the visual that are like on that level. But then you learn that it's not all the creative, because you don't have the business machine that The Mill has, so you can't easily get to that level. So you have to build all the other aspects.
Yeah.
And then also one project that is in my mind is like Cricket Manager, the game. So that one has multiple characters, motion capturing, all the juiciest and most complex stuff that we can imagine, and we just brought it to perfection and nailed it. Like, we are really, like, people don't want to hear small studio. We're nimble. I like to refer to us as a nimble powerhouse,
Yeah.
because like we really have those like guys that are generalists that build stuff. But the cricket manager, I think, was way above our height, and what we can do as a nimble studio. So that was also, I was thinking like, all right, we did it. Now we will get swamped with work. But it wasn't the case, because you just didn't build the studio for that. So there's no PR, there's no marketing, there's no sales that you do, there's no all the business stuff, to push you there. So that's interesting.
I mean, your creative skills and the people in the business might have that creative edge, but if you don't have that business infrastructure in place to actually handle those types of clients and those types of project pipelines, you're just going to be hit with, I don't know what to do. It's one big kind of mess. But I guess you don't really know what direction to go down in kind of developing the business infrastructure without being hit with a big project or a big client to actually instigate you building that kind of stuff behind the business. So I think everyone will, and everyone kind of needs that big project or big thing to land before they can actually start developing those kind of things. As it's quite, in my opinion, in my experience, it's quite hard to develop the back end of the business without having anything to show for it. But yeah, interested on your take on that.
That's true. And also, like, I always, like, we talk now, and I always try to go to my more experienced colleagues, the ones running business for 20 years. And then I collect like their experience. So I recently spoke with Simon from Dixon Baxi, and one of the things, like, when I ask, how do you come into position to choose what you're gonna do? Because like we have to give money to people to pay the rent. You can't be choosy all the time. Let's be honest. And he's like, you build it. It's not just one big thing that changes you overnight. It's like series of things that you do in between the project, during the project, put a little bit of here, put a little bit of there, and then just think about it, and then you try to find space to build things, and then those pivoting, it can take ages, and basically it's never done.
Yeah.
It's never done to wherever you are now, because if it's done, then you are done too.
Yeah, there's always something else you can build on within a creative company, whether that's hiring a new type of person or a new type of role, or diving into a new specific software to help push the needle on a project, or whatever it is. You're never like, we've hired everyone, we've learned everything, we've tried every project, and now we just sit back and wait for them to come in. It's the next hurdle. It's this new tool that's come out. How can we implement that? It's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
But it's always the thing that we chase is actually that, like, come to a point, but everything is just great. But we chase that, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, how much of your work now? We were talking about it kind of before we started. How much of your week, I guess, is actual creative work versus kind of like leadership, project management, hiring, pitching, and clients? How often are you ever really now getting into kind of the nitty gritty of the 3D stuff, if ever?
Zero. Earlier I used to think about it, then it just became part of my life and day-to-day thing. I don't know. People ask me, do you miss it? I do, but it doesn't feel very comfortable to sit and work. I don't know, just I feel it like the mouse in my hand, and like our industry, what we do, where we sit a lot, it's not healthy. I also used to, when I teach younger people, like, importance of exercising is huge. So wherever I sit now and I want to do creative stuff, I do miss, like, making beautiful style frames, but I don't miss like holding my mouse and sitting in the chair. So it's kind of impossible to
It's like you kind of want to be able to make really nice style frames, not handing it completely over to AI, but also, not having to sit down on it for 8 or 9 hours in one day. I
Yeah,
mean, for me, my roles at the moment kind of it's 50-50, maybe even kind of more so on the actual creative side where I'm in cinema or, rendering and Octane, that kind of thing. And the rest of mine is managing people around, kind of briefing, talking to clients, getting in calls, that kind of thing. But I think that's the difference with being a freelancer and being a business owner. Yes, freelancers, you're kind of, you're a sole trader, I guess you're an entrepreneur, but within your kind of like role. And I feel like people know what they want. If you do want to get kind of bigger and you want to build a studio or you want to be working with a bunch of different people, be prepared to not be doing that kind of 3D execution the whole time. And if that's what you do want to be doing, then maybe founding a business or something like that isn't right for you. In contrast, I think if you want to let go from the creative aspect and get more experience in team leadership and hiring and that kind of thing, developing that kind of business is something. But in your honest opinion, do you think that actually building out from a solo freelancer into a creative business is something you recommend people do now? Is that, do you think it's still a good business venture for people? Or are you seeing more value in kind of individuals to be hired onto projects rather than setting them up on their own kind of thing?
yeah. So I started like my business from the freelance. So I used to freelance at Berlin, at Germany. I work with the studio called Polynoid. They are now called Woodblock. They're amazing. The way it started for me, I've noticed a gap in their production. Like they were amazing at the storytelling and creating commercials and campaigns, but I thought that the product could be treated better. So my business became from that because I started working only on the asset work of the business. So I think like it's definitely possible, and it's definitely a way. You don't work at a studio, you start freelancing. Like that's the next step, and then the next step could be founding your studio. At the current climate, where we have this crazy situation of everything, economy, politics, wars, AI, uh, and what I also see is like the studios that are working and thriving are the small ones, like 1-2 person or 1 person with freelancers, because like you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay wages every month, and then the big ones who have everything from the PR, marketing, sales, and all those, and they have like 20+ persons, so they can feed all those big brands, like 30-40 people. They can work with Apple, they can work multiple campaigns. Those are good. And the middle, where you have, for example, 10 people, and then you have to pay all those wages, pay the rent. You can't feed the big guys. You can't be nimble as 1-2 person studio.
Mm,
That's kind of very, very hard. And that
yeah.
thing is being squeezed out, unfortunately. And we witnessed the shutdowns of some historically amazing studios who produce some of the most beautiful work ever, and that's so sad to see. But yeah, we live those times now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, outside of the industry think that, the death of a lot of studios and creative kind of, I guess, small agencies, whether that's, 2 to 5 people, is because of, AI or the automation of things. But actually, I think it's just the general running of business is considerably harder than it previously was. If you are
Exactly.
two to three people on your kind of studio business, which a lot of the time is kind of low shack studios, it makes it, everything is considerably harder. So I agree with you, but to get to that kind of stage where you're 30 to 40 people, you have to go through the mid phase of being kind of 10, 11, 12. So it kind of puts you in a weird mid ground of being, do we stay as 2 to 3? Or, if I want to get to the mill stage or someone, or where we have 40 to 50 people working for us and we have 10 people on one project, how do we get there? And it's kind of puts people in a little bit of a weird situation. And I guess this conversation has slightly shifted to directing at people who maybe have businesses of that 8 to kind of 15 range, of how do I scale this? You know, is 3D, is CG, is VFX a scalable business? And you know, I think every time I kind of think about it, it's even more hard than when I last thought about it. You know, how do I actually get into that position? So yeah, I mean, I think it's even more difficult now, and people keep saying it's actually easier than ever, but yeah, I don't necessarily agree with them.
Yeah, I don't know. For us, it feels more difficult. But yeah, I think those people that are like smaller studios that maybe they thrive now. But it's also like everything is very murky where we don't know what's happening with AI, everything. So it's hard to have a clear picture on the whole thing at the
Yeah,
moment.
I'd say for people who are so passionate about, you know, like me, I was so passionate about creating and 3D and visual effects and that kind of thing, but I was also so passionate about entrepreneurship and building a business and leading a team. I think, you know, I think it's such a great learning thing for people, but it is an increasingly more difficult industry to get in, especially at this stage. I'm seeing a lot more value in kind of individual freelancers and hiring people as individuals. Possibly companies are as well, as they're looking to cut back costs. I'm seeing more and more brands not wanting to work with massive agencies and studios, and more on kind of let's hire a couple freelancers and that kind of thing, on cutting back costs. So, you know, I think it honestly depends on your sector of focus, and, you know, how much work there is there. But also what you're passionate about. You know, for your first few years in business, you might make the same or even slightly less than freelancing, whether that's paying for overheads or additional hires or, you know,
Yeah.
marketing and things like that. So, you know, I don't think it's one of those ones, and absolutely not, you know, just get in there for the money. Absolutely. I think you have to be passionate about what you're creating. Otherwise, it's just, you know, not worth it. But I think touching on like the clients and what clients want nowadays, when you're kind of working with these brands and clients, what do you find that they're actually paying the fee for? Is it the renders? Is it the R&D? Is it the kind of clarity of their ideas? Is it, you know, strategy? What do you find what do you find clients are most looking for when they come to you for services and things like that?
Yeah. So for us, we've really gone from working as the outsource or partnering with other studios. We work with production houses, we work with the agencies, and we work with the brands. What we find out is like we mostly like to work either with like the top stuff, like the brand, or the bottom stuff with other studios, because other studios, they're like friends. So imagine like you and I, we geek out like about octane, about lighting, like we know our language, right? So that's kind of smooth, and we
Yeah.
understand our pain, which may come from the top to bottom. But then working with the brand directly puts you in position to hear out those problems from the first person, and it's not diluted or even more I don't know, like complicated through the agency or production house. So it's like the source of the problem, so you can really help those person with their problem. So these are two positions that we like to work most with. And can you remind me what was the question?
What, you know,
Well, yeah, I
what are
remember.
clients
Sorry.
mostly coming to you for? You know, yes, they're just coming for this render and saying, giving you a
Yeah.
deliverable or a brief. But, you know,
So yeah,
when I work with clients, I'm finding that I'm diving into a little bit more like their marketing and what they're doing, or, you know, how this is coming across, or the packaging as well and things, if
yeah.
that's also included in what you're doing.
It depends on the structure of the client, but sometimes brand can have in-house team. Sometimes brand can have a 3D artist, depending on the type of the brand. If it's, for example, I don't know, company that's producing some either bikes or cars, or they have to have people who are into 3D. So then you deliver something different. But if they don't have that, then I think the answer is confidence, because you have to guide them through all the process. You are the one with the experience. You are the one who did this numerous times. they do understand what they need for their like video merchandising platforms, wherever they feed their marketing content, but you're the one that's guiding them through the creative and everything. So I think it's definitely confidence and then relationship that you build with them to go through the other projects. Yeah.
I think it's a natural curve for people that get into the creative industry. You know, for me, I was just focused on kind of rendering, you know, how can I model the best? How can I texture? You know, all of that kind of really 3D juicy stuff. But then as you start to work with brands individually and people at brands or people at different studios and agencies, you start to figure out different things about kind of different companies. You know, for me, as I've worked with different people, I've figured out, you know, marketing techniques, and I've learned about marketing, and I've learned about manufacturing, and I've learned about packaging. And I feel like this is also one of those industries that you can get into to find other things that may interest you. So for me, I don't just want to stick into 3D. I also want to, you know, a massive passion for mine is horology and watches, because I absolutely love rendering them, but I also absolutely love the whole manufacturing process behind them and the marketing behind a luxury brand. And I think for a lot of people, through 3D and being able to work on just a bunch and variety of different projects, you find that, oh, I actually really enjoyed working on this kind of chocolate bar or this fruit bar or whatever. And you do find other industries that you might want to dive into a little bit more or specialize in. So yeah, no, I completely understand what you mean. But I guess branching on from that, when building visuals for brands and kind of focusing on the 3D part, what is separating premium visuals from just average ones? So when one comes up on your feed or your Behance and your LinkedIn, what makes you go, that looks like that was built by a bespoke studio? And what makes you go, that kind of looks rushed and low budget?
Yeah. So I remember one of the first project, it was a cross section from my freelancing to the studio. We had a with friends from Germany project. They got a project for Nike, and it was a hypervenom cleat. And you know, the Neymar was the person, and I don't know if it was influencer back in the days, but we built a sneaker, like we built it so good that it holds on today, like 13 years ago. Like we didn't have, I don't remember if we had like photo scanning or like decent photo. We didn't have laser scanning, you know, but we build it in a way that it holds up today. So it's attention to details, and then all the other thing, when if we talk about the product, so it's definitely attention to details. Like I remember me leading a team working on that. I was so meticulous, so like such a surgeon precision about every little detail that you can put in. So I think that's what's important if we talk about the product, but then it also reflects to everything else: the storytelling, the lighting, the final image, the atmosphere, you know, and all those things just bring a layer of quality that at the end it just, you know, stands out and breaks the noise, and it's just premium.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have to feel like everything is cohesive, and when I feel like a you know, a render or and mainly with kind of animations and videos and commercials, you know, does the modeling standard meet the lighting standard, and does the lighting standard meet the editing standard, and you know, that kind of thing. And that's when I feel like, actually a big studio worked on this, because you have all those different specialty pipelines. But
Yeah.
you know, when something is less premium, a bit more average, you can start to see some of those break away. And I feel like that's why there's so many generalists out there at the moment, is because we all want to be pretty good at each of those, especially when, you know, it's just a freelancer working with a brand, which is a lot of the case. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Do you think, I guess, too many studios, too many brands, too many people are chasing the same look and aesthetic? I know for me, over the past year, there have been dozens of different themes where I've gone, I've seen that before. You know, this is the exact same render, just instead of it being with a water bottle, it's with an iPhone case. You know, I think everyone saw a phase on Instagram or LinkedIn where it was a product in between two rocks or something like that. Are you finding that too many brands are too many studios or freelancers are just doing more of the same thing and not branching out of their comfort zone.
That's true. We live in a time of algorithms which dictate who sees what.
Yeah.
And then you can also imagine like people within the brands and agencies coming to whomever, you or me, and saying like, we need this, and then you should have that confidence, say, okay, but what's the real problem? What is your product?
Yeah.
Who's your audience? And then you can say, well, why not like this? And it takes experience and confidence. And yeah, I also feel like there's so many similar things, but also when artists see something and like our feeds are flooded, and it basically, if you manage, you should probably disconnect and find your joy, your driver,
Yeah.
regardless of all the trends. But it's so, it's not easy. Like how much time do we spend online? It's too much. Like it's too much. You're fed up with all these things, and then you should disconnect. And yeah, I think we should disconnect, and what is it that drives us, and then create from scratch something
Yeah. I
different.
mean, when you're, we spoke about and you mentioned before turning viewers into believers, and I guess going down a little bit of this rabbit hole of actually building a visual that is good for the brand, good for the product, and not just another generic look dev or something is just repurposed but with someone else's render with this brand's product. What do you mean by turning viewers into believers, and what do you think actually makes that happen in a visual or a campaign or a render?
So it can be many things. I have one good example. We didn't do it, but lately, like it's hard to find something like that. I very much like, if you know the Oakley, like the glasses brand,
Yeah.
they have series. Have you seen the series? Like, they build the world, and then they have CGI, like, characters and the world and relationship. So I think that's really good example, like building the world and your IP
Yeah.
is such an amazing thing. And then I always wanted to work with the cyclist brand, with the bikes, but never had an opportunity.
Yeah, me too.
But when you see a community of cyclists, like they are such a community, like they go out, they drive bikes, like they're always in bunches, and they drink a lot of coffee together, because that's the thing with them. So, like, I guess every brand would like a community like that. So I think there are different ways to do it, but one of those is like creating worlds and IPs, and thinking more long term about things.
Yeah, it's actually, one thing I try and do in a lot of my visuals isn't just, okay, let's just put this on a rock or let's just put this on a pedestal. It's actually, how does this make sense? Why does that product belong there? How do I make a composition that complements the selling point of this product, whether that's, a moisturizer or a skincare product? It's like, what else can I put in there that complements that product? Again, building worlds, but also linking it back to the brands. Like you said, Oakley, they've got this massive push for big CG and big scenes and things like that. And I think it is, I'm seeing a lot of the same boring, flat visuals. Yeah, great model, great lighting, but I've got absolutely zero personal connection to it. The visual might look great on a billboard and things like that, but I feel like as people start to wake up from this whole AI generative kind of look of things looking the same, having that connection to a visual and what it's actually telling you in terms of, what's in the scene, what is in this product, that kind of thing is really what sets it apart. So yeah, I just really hope that more individuals, freelancers and studios dive into how can we show off this product best to not just sell, but also talk to the person, talk to the consumer, instead of it just, don't just make it look nice. How can we communicate this product best?
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. It's also important that you, as you said, you have a passion for horology, and that's important thing. Like, for example, my producer, she's like into cosmetics and makeup, mostly makeup, and I'm like, go get those clients because you're the perfect person. You're like the producer within the studio
Yeah.
that does premium stuff,
Yeah.
and then this is your passion, and then basically those guys need you more than anybody else because you have the greatest understanding of their products, and because you are passionate about it and you're a consumer, so like you can give them more than anyone else can do
Dream,
from the like
dream
studio world.
combo. Yeah.
So also we have artists who like cars, and I'm like, if we are pitching the car, go make it, you love that. How would you do it? Make the advantage of the people's, of the artist's passions to position your studio into those verticals or whatever. So that's
Yeah. I guess it's the dream combination that if you're also a consumer of the product you absolutely love to create, it's, so it just levels that up to a whole new
exactly.
level. So, me being into watches and horology, getting into all of those, fine metals and different brushings and things like that is all things I'd love to see on the back of a watch or on the front or whatever as a consumer or someone hoping or dreaming to buy of that watch, for example. It's really
Yeah.
diving into those details. Same with kind of what you were saying about makeup and cosmetics. If you're a consumer of that, you'll be able to apply exactly what would make you buy, so your producer seeing a makeup brand or product that she absolutely loves, applying that to the work that you create is just, it has that snowball effect. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's the dream combination of, and I wish more artists would do it, is bring their passions into this. You're into mountain biking, do mountain bike, look dev. You're into gaming or peripherals or that kind of thing, bring that in. You're into,
Yeah.
Into food or whatever, bring passion in, as I feel like a lot of that human connection and passion to what you like in the real world is so important in what you create as well. And brands love that, and studios and agencies absolutely love that. If you've got that first-hand experience and passion in using that product, then I think that's a dream combination. And that's why I
Yeah.
absolutely love working on watch projects and things like that. And
Yeah.
same as your producer, I absolutely love the world of cosmetics and things like that. Although I've got not the greatest skin, that's a big passion of mine, is how the cosmetics and skincare industries all work. That's a massive thing for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like people, you can see that in work that people create, is they actually
Yeah,
understand how the
100%.
product works. But yeah, no, I feel like that is so vital in the whole world of kind of this, as you were saying earlier, the murky times that we're in, with AI, I guess, coming in. But has AI actually changed anything at TAILORS? Have you implemented any of AI workflows at TAILORS? How are you using it?
So yeah, it's such a heavy topic. Like, like always, like not always, but we have to be aware of and recall. We're talking about Gen AI, generative AI, and generating images and videos with AI. Like how it became. It didn't come to life in a very legal or moral or ethical way. It literally harvested World Wide Web for all the content, and that's just a sad truth. Can we as a studio, like us, make a presence without it? Like, I don't think so, because we feel there's a push for it, and then within that push, not that there's not plan. I would say that you can make use of it at 30% of scenarios where it makes sense. You
Yeah,
can do 100% of
yeah,
the work, but at 20 to 30% it will make sense. And then going back to the fact that it became like this, and then you have to use it, it makes you be at a strange place morally. So it's definitely not easy. Definitely not easy. I don't feel good about it, but it's here to stay. We've seen many bad work. They, it's called slop. We see a lot of slop.
I love that new LinkedIn update where you can top right just go
Yeah,
seems like or looks like AI slot. Absolutely
yeah.
brilliant update
On
from
one
LinkedIn.
on one hand, yes. On the other hand, you have like polish my writing with AI at the same LinkedIn, like and that like Microsoft thing. So
Yeah.
it's so hard. It's so polarized. But you know, the thing is here to stay. At least we have to educate on it. I paid like education for my whole team, so they educated on it, and I think I look forward to the times where the 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 bids will not come in as like, can you bid this as AI project? Because it never came in like, can you bid this as Houdini project? And you know, and also the one of the big things that happened recently with AI, like people, and this is not putting blame on them, it just brands, clients, agencies, finally, some of them have option to choose cheap and bad. Finally, they have cheap and bad. Before, they have like bad, but not so cheap because it has to go to traditional pipeline anyway. So somebody can do it poorly, but it will not be that cheap. But now, and some of those brands, people, they really need like cheap and not so good. Like they really need that, and you can't blame them. They have that option to get that stuff finally. So you know, but there are some studios making good work with good looking work with AI. You know, and if you have taste and experience with the visual and stuff, you can produce good stuff. But it's tricky. It's so murky. I don't know. I'm not at the moment. I'm not very positive about it. I think that laws should be made. You know, we should know about the pollution. Like, can we standardize the token? Like, can it be standard value? Can we know about the pollution based on the token? Like, there's so many questions in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, the push is so big. Like, man, I don't know.
Honestly, I think we've seen such a major push in AI that we're going to see as, the complete opposite start to come into play is, humans and people love that whole, human made in connection. Things like paintings and photography are all still around. They're massive industries still, massive passion behind it. People that still buy paintings. Photography, you could say, is bigger than ever. It hasn't been taken over by AI. Everyone loves to take photos of the real world, and everyone, so many people love to paint. That's never been removed, and these are kind of old things now. Everyone thought that Photoshop or AI and that kind of thing would wipe out photography, but no, photography is real and tangible, and more tangible. Painting has been crafted, each kind of brushstroke, and AI at the moment, no matter what you throw at it, it's never perfect. Oh, put this product, put this water bottle or whatever into a scene. It's not perfect. It's not doing it exactly by the dimensions of what you've had it manufactured at or designed at. It's the way I like to describe it is it's just merging pixels together. It's not doing anything physically accurate. It's doing what it thinks. Does this pixel look good next to this one? Does it kind of make sense? Is kind of how I think of it. So I think it's really good for smaller brands that are just trying to start up, but for brands that care and for brands that want to push a good product and a genuine product, I feel like should invest in, and I'm not just doing this to kind of, I guess, sell CG or 3D. Go down the
Yeah.
photography route. Take photos of it. Get it into other people's hands. Film content with it. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a push into just general people hating the AI generated feeling of things. I mean, something just sparks to mind. On Instagram, I've been seeing a bunch of these small business posters from in my area or around England or whatever, of whether that's car washes or car salespeople or small cafes or bakeries using a very clearly AI generated or ChatGPT poster or promo or social media post, and there's people in the comments going, I'm just never going to buy from you. You don't care about, you know, the human touch of it, or clearly you can't even invest $100 or £100 to hire a designer to make a good poster for you. And it's like people, I feel like in certain areas and certain people are starting to shift into, I actually want to buy something, or I respect that business from ones that still care about that human creativity and passion behind things. And I think AI being so quick is great in some aspects, but I think we're going to, in my opinion, from what I've seen, see a little bit of a drawback of people just going, I don't want to buy from a company that does this or that. And I think brands might see that a little bit as well, but I don't know. Time will tell.
I truly hope.
I hope so as well. You know, it's been great seeing how much AI has developed, but for me in my studio and in my day to day, I am only using AI in things like ideation, coming up with, you know, possible different concepts I could do in text form. So I've got this new product. We want to put it in this. What are some scenes we could do with it? And they give me options there. I use it in finances and budgeting. Great at maths, great at sorting out money, that kind of thing. Absolutely fantastic, super quick. Think that kind of thing. And I guess you could say, but that's also replacing a finance job, or that's replacing the early concepting stages and ideation, that kind of thing. But for me, as a small studio, having the finances, the money, the start ideation, the getting briefs together, you know, sorting out team members by AI is great. It's a great time saver, great cost saver. But I'm just not, everything it puts out to me, I'm like, there's issues. There's so many issues. The label's wrong, the product's wrong, the lighting on it looks bad, and I can't iterate from there. I can't send that to a client, because if they want one light moved or changed, I'm screwed. I have to regenerate the whole thing and just go from there.
For the product stuff, definitely, it's not very handy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We did one project where it was live action. It was shot. The actors were shot on set. We had green screens, but we took care with the backgrounds, and it was at certain shots it kind of worked, but at certain shots we learned that we spent, for example, $200 on tokens, where we could just have, you know, somebody do the thing for us.
Yeah.
You know, but we were pushed to go with the AI route, you know, for the project. And then you just, you know, and it was like, okay, let's learn it in production for sure where it is. But the push comes from the up. Let's see how it turns out. I don't know. Hopefully everything you said turns out to good future for us.
Yeah.
That would be
I mean,
good.
I guess digressing from the whole kind of AI talk, is it's such a, I guess you could spend multiple episodes going into each one of these, but you also run a coffee business, 7 a.m. roasters. Yeah, I guess dive into that a little bit more. What made you build a second business outside of CGI, and why was it coffee?
Yeah, so I like to joke about myself, like I ruined my two hobbies. I ruined both hobbies because I turned them into the business.
Yeah.
Right. So it was animation and CGI, and then it was a coffee geek side, and running CGI studio and working in advertising has its periods of like projects, no project, no project. Like, I don't know, neither studio just going on projects constantly.
Yeah.
So like learning to help your mental in the downs and, you know, stay focused and afloat, you basically have to learn how to keep building your business, or not just your business, how to keep building your life. So building your life can be also building your business, or building your personal life, or working on your health, anything that you can do for better self and around yourself. So at one of those stages when we didn't have, pretty much dry, we didn't have many projects, I just decided I go for the roastery. Like, I know there's a gap. We didn't have many inquiries, we didn't have many sales lead, but usually it just takes off. So in that period, I invested in just planting a seed, in, just building a roastery bit by bit. And 2 months was enough to plant that seed, to find a partner who will like take it off. And now, with TAILORS, projects took off. They came in like they always do. But now, like, the roastery and coffee shop, it's running for 3 years, and it's very recognized local brand for the specialty coffee. So I'm super proud about it. And what's also interesting, I from time to time I manage to merge those. So we will make clips for the 7 a.m. It will be like a test polygon, and then like, this is the brand which needs this, and I know it. I'm the owner, and then this is my studio creating craft, and then it's a great exercise, and then we can have absolute creative freedom and then create stuff. So that was also like really, really rewarding for me to kind of merge those two.
Are you finding most of your time is spent more on 7 a.m. or more at TAILORS? And what are you
More
finding
at
more
TAILORS.
more at TAILORS?
More on TAILORS. Like, that's, like, there's a saying in Serbian, I don't know how to saying, like, it's a joke, like, from the song, like, the you can't forget about your first love. They mean about a girlfriend, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, so I kind of went to 7 a.m., but I always knew I'm coming back here. Like, this is my first passion and everything I love about the creative industry. So yeah, and luckily I have a good partner at both sides, and good partner at 7 a.m. So he's like dealing about everything there. So I'm just doing like some operations, logistic stuff, ordering coffees, keeping in touch with wholesales, finances, those things.
After 13 years at TAILORS, how important are, savings and outside investments and surviving bad periods for you? What have you found be most valuable, I guess, on a personal finance level or even a business finance level? What are you finding has saved your ass?
Yeah. So when, for us, like, it's 13 years, and when you imagine, for example, you said you're around 3 years, like, in the business. Can you just imagine how much more is 10 years? Like, things can happen, like, so many things. And uh, you should use moments of good periods, profitable periods. It's so important to take care about yourself, financially, and be smart about it. Like, invest wherever you think you can invest. Like, for me, roasteries was like kind of a small investment, but it turned out to be a great business. And then you have stocks. Like, you should save some money at the stocks. You should think different things. Like, if you get a bigger studio and like a bigger profit, maybe a little bit some real estate, whatever. And then, because those things create kind of a safe net, because it's not going to be perfect always in the creative business. So when things go down, like, you're more resilient, and then you can take greater risks and go through the longer dry periods and provide your team with more safety. Because, like, if you didn't save nothing, if you pushed everything into the business, in scaling one business, in creative business, if things go south and you've got nothing, then you are in danger. Then your logics and decisions are maybe not so good, and you're bringing them from the place that's not so safe. So, and in general, like, in life, I think it's good to diversify incomes, because you never know. It is also for in studio, like, we never niched, the mentors always tell you, like, maybe you niche to this vertical or to this type of the project, but we tried to do a little bit of game cinematics or the asset for the games, a little bit of advertising, and we still do a little bit of TV shows and film work and VFX,
Yeah.
because like first thing post-COVID that went down was gaming. Like there's a bam like this, and we had like local cinematics studio. They went down. They don't do film. They don't do advertising, but we kept those two tools, at least. So you never know, like, but that's my experience at least.
So you found like a personal safety net has given you more oxygen to make better calls or better investments in your team and the work. So you think that that's
Yes,
a massive piece of advice for people is don't just constantly throw it at the business, but also keep some aside for the hard times to keep you through, I guess.
definitely. Like, yeah, that's one thing. And then one of the most important things in any business, especially with ours, with all those, like, have your cash runway, like have your like learn to have your cash runway, like where are you, when are the payments coming in, save for like greater cash runway, how much do you see forward,
Yeah.
and just update it. Like that's the most important tool that you should have within your business. Serious.
If you were to say theoretically or hypothetically, if you were to rebuild Taylor's today, what would you do slightly differently?
Oh, for sure. So basically, I built it from. Yeah, this is the story I told at the presentation at Sarajevo Film Festival recently. Like I built it from one connection. So I've been in Germany, Berlin, and I built it from one connection. I mean, that's delusional. And not just I came back home. I said like I'm running a studio. I'm gonna fill this gap, guys. And they were like, great, we want to work with you. You're amazing, but we don't have some work to. We don't have projects now. But I was delusional. I came back, I rented the office, I bought the machines, I set up 3 desks. Like it makes no sense at all. I went to the office every day without the project, without employees. It makes no sense at all. But it kind of set the tone and puts me in position that I'm going to work every day and that I perform every day, even if I craft stuff for myself. But what I wish I do differently is freelance at more places. I had
Mm,
opportunity to freelance at London, at Barcelona, at New York. I just didn't do. I rushed into a business. I mean, at least I started it earlier.
yeah.
But if I made more connections, it might have been better at least in the start.
So would you say that that was your biggest founder mistake was the actual starting point of it, or would you say that there was another point where you were like, I've messed up here, and what mistake
Uh,
was that?
no, I think I don't know. I think it would be better if I did it if I had more freelance experience, but it, that didn't hurt like overall development of TAILORS. That what it became. It just took more time to take off.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just
Yeah.
that.
I guess as like a final thing to close off with, if you were talking to a 3D artist or a freelancer, the type of people that are listening, or even someone that wants to be a founder of a studio or whatever, what's one lesson or one piece of advice that you'd give someone wanting to build a creative career? No matter how big or small it is, you can dive into it, whatever.
Yeah, don't wait for the permission. Like don't wait for the permission. Don't wait till you put your perfect reel to reach out. Don't wait until you have like perfect website to reach out. Just you have one piece of work, two piece of work, just but the greatest things, like go for it and go out, hang with people that you like, that you fit, and then networking is the biggest, because the people will it takes relationship to give you a project. Like you will not cold email someone or on LinkedIn or email and he grants you like 50K project. It takes relationship.
Mm.
So don't wait for permission and network as much as you can all around the globe.
Yeah.
Conferences, advertising places, wherever, but you will be imagined how much more value you will get from fellow friends than from the actual clients, because fellow friends will push you in certain direction or recommend you, or like
trust.
I think those things.
Trust and relationships and connections for me have been more not only revenue building but business building, or even just actually on a personal level of mindset building and that kind of thing, than any cold email campaign I've done, or any mass LinkedIn messaging thing I've done. The main high budget things that I've had the opportunity of working on is by knowing the person that works there, or they know me, that kind of thing. It's building these different branches and planting different seeds is those such of things. And for such a digital industry, getting to in-person events and making something tangible and human and interacting with other artists, for me that is one of the most important and also fulfilling things, because
exactly,
I'm always discussing with my team over calls or discussing with clients over calls, but seeing people in person and building a personal connection makes everything honestly 10 times better. You'll see projects grow, you'll see budgets for campaigns, everything with those increased in human, I guess, interaction. But yeah, Ivan, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll link all of Ivan's links and details below. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Harrison. It's good to be here, and yeah, keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.